Hi, it's Helen Tarrant.
Hi there, welcome to another episode of Commercial Property Roadshow. Now, I've had some questions regarding, does commercial property have the same capital growth as residential? Now, one of the things I want to talk about is how capital growth works in commercial property. Firstly, commercial property, the capital growth happens in two ways. Firstly, as the rental increases in your property and as the returns in the market drops. So they're two separate things. You can have one without the other. So what does that mean? That means that you actually get two lots of capital gains in commercial property as compared to residential. So let's say that commercial property, each year you're getting, say, $40,000 for a property, and you get a 3% rental increase each year. So the second year becomes $41,200. The following year that compounds to $4,200, maybe, $42,440. So it compounds each year by 3%. Now, as that rental grows, so does the value of your property. So for example, with a tenanted property, and we're talking tenanted property capital growth here, where when you buy a tenanted property, you buy it on a yield. So that means that you buy it on a return. So when you buy it on a return, the return is based on what the market expectation is. So let's say you bought it at 7%. So a $40,000 property, you bought it at 7%, is a property around roughly $520,000 to $550,000. Now, as the rent grows, and let's say the market stays pretty stable, so someone around you, so your neighbor next door or somewhere around 5K radius from you, they're also getting 7%. Then the value of the market value, the cap rate or what they call it, is at 7%. But instead of the value of your property staying stable, because of the growth in the rent, it now increases the value of your property. So what that means is, as your rent grows from $41,000 to $41,200, your property actually grows about at 3% capital growth in the back end if the market rate stays at 7%, which is where you bought it in from. So let me explain this a little bit more clearly, because this might be a little bit more confusing. So a cap rate in the market is a rate in the market for a particular type of property across the board. So for example, if you're buying in Brisbane, generally a warehouse property or an office property might be a 7% yield. So that's after outgoings, before mortgage. And that means that if you're buying a 7% yielding property and it's $40,000 as the net rent, it's going to range somewhere around $520,000 to $550,000. Now, next year, say as your property goes from $40,000 with the 3% increase to $41,200, you're going to find that if you apply the same 7% yield to that property, that the property value actually goes up by 3%. So instead of being worth, say, $550,000, it's now worth an extra, actually, $15,000 to $17,000 more. So there's a 3% return on the back end, which is what we call capital growth. So the rental increase that's built into your lease in a commercial property automatically guarantees you a capital growth on the back end. Now, that's just on market, and that's on rental increases each year. Now, market is what you normally see in residential. So in the residential space, your capital growth is based on what the market is doing. So if all the properties in this current suburb or area starts to grow by 20, 10, 15 or 50%, then so does your property. It just naturally happens in this area. And it happens because of a few reasons. Firstly, the area has had a gentrification, so a lot more people moving into the area. You'll find a change of the demographics, so you might get more people from white-collar people working more in the area. You might find there's more schools, you might find more private schools, you might find hospitals. You'll automatically find that there is more infrastructure built in this area, and also more jobs in the area as well. So that pushes the attraction of the area. So as people move in, it heats up because people are looking to rent in the area, people are looking to work in the area, people are looking to buy in the area. And as more people buy, there's more buying activity, it starts to push the prices up. And that's how you get capital growth. And as time goes past, more and more people buy into this area, the more the prices go up. So that's how market capital growth works. But what happens in market capital growth is, as the prices grow, you would find that the rentals, especially in residential, do not catch up in the same way as your growth happens. So next year, let's say from this year you bought a house for 500,000, and next year, let's say it goes up by 10%. It's now worth 550,000, but you'll find your rentals of that same property may not have gone up by 10%, may have stayed totally stable because there's not enough not enough demand in the market for that rental property. There's downward pressure on rent at the moment, or there's too many like properties like that on the market. For whatever reason, you might find that you were renting the $500,000 property out for $350 a week. The next year, at best, you might be able to, put it up by $10 or $5 for $360 a week. So the return in terms of cash flow has not grown by 10% just because the value has. In fact, if you look at the value, as the value grows, the return on your investment actually lowers. And the reason for that is you'll find that it's an inverse relationship. So the more the value exponentiates, the lower your actual returns is, because more people are willing to bank on the back end. More people are looking like, oh look, the capital growth on the back end way outweighs my $10 rental increase or $50 rental increase. I'd rather wait for my 50,000 or 100,000 or or 200,000. So as a result of that, there is people are happy to accept less cash flow at the front end, but more growth in the back end. And that happens in commercial property as well. So as the area gentrifies and more people move into the area, there's more demand on the properties, residential starts to move, gentrification happens, more jobs stay in local areas, more people willing to rent, more white collar people wants to work in the local area rather than travel half an hour, 45 or an hour and a half to work. You'll find that there is pressure on the rents because there's only limited supply of commercial properties usually in an area. So they don't just go out and build masses and masses of commercial property. So as a result of that, it pushes up the rent, it pushes up the value of the property, and therefore you have capital growth on the back end. So commercial property falls on has two capital growth, one based on the rent growing if the market is flat, secondly exponentially with the market, just like residential. So whereas residential only has one form of capital growth, which is back end capital growth based on the market, and that's out of your control. All market capital growth is out of your control, because just like now, what's happened during COVID is that there is really no capital growth in the next 12 or 24 months at the moment. We are trying at best to stabilize the market and hold on to the value of our property. But if it was a pre-COVID, you can see the value starts to creep up and grow in all the areas around Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. You'll find that in commercial property, 5 years ago, you could be getting 7% in that suburb. You're now getting 4 or 5%. And that means the value of the property has gone up. And it's the same in residential. You might find that 5 years ago, you might be able to get a gross 5% for a rental return on that property, but now you're getting a gross 3%. So it's interrelated. So just remember, as the value of the property grows, the return drops. But that's because more people are happy to take less cash at the front end and more capital growth on the back end, because the capital growth outweighs the cash flow at the front end. Now, if you're looking at purely rents, as the rental grows in commercial property, so does the value of your property. And that is based on if nothing happens in the market, in a flat market. So right now in COVID, that's why it's never been a better time to buy commercial property than right now, because even in a flat market, and you can increase your property rentals by even just CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, and that's usually maybe even at this point, maybe some areas 1.5% or even 2%, you're still maintaining the value of your property, and you're guaranteeing some growth in the property. And even let's just say that this year you cannot support a rental increase in your tenants this year. Well, just by holding the rent still in a flat market, you're still holding on to the value of your property. So when you're comparing capital growth, just remember that you get 2 shots at it at commercial property, where you get 1 shot at it in residential. So if you want to find out more and really want us to do a comparison for something that you're looking at in both commercial and residential, you want us to help you implement a strategy, go to helentarrant.com, send me a message through there, and I'm happy to get on a call with you and discuss your strategy individually. But in the meantime, hit the bell, subscribe, and I can send you also an ebook as well if you need more information. So until next time, bye for now.